Okay, so here's another unexpected event that happened this morning. I was driving through Rush there, and I copped there was a guy lying on the ground on the footpath. Now, luckily, he was being propped up by this other guy, and there was 3 or 4 people standing around him, and there was a ladder, quite a tall ladder, you know, somewhat suspiciously lying on the footpath beside them. And I put 2 and 2 together as I drove past and said, fuck, that lad's after falling off a ladder and they're waiting on an ambulance. And sure enough, only 2 minutes up the road, an ambulance passed me with its flashing blue lights on. Now, what that had me thinking about was, I essentially came across another scene, like the guards that I met earlier. So, was driving along, turned a corner, and in front of me, guarded checkpoint. Immediate knee-jerk reaction, panic. Fuck! But there today, it was like, oh, what's going on? Oh, there's a guy on the ground. Oh, fuck, there's people standing around him. There's a ladder on the ground. Oh, fuck. He doesn't look great. He's after falling off that ladder. There's people there. It's under control. Ambulance is on its way. I kept about me business. Kept driving. But what it got me thinking about was, what if that was a different scenario and more dramatic? So you're driving along, and instead of turning a corner and seeing a guarded checkpoint, you turn a corner, you see a car crash. Maybe you see it happen. And this is all just imagined in my head, so who knows how I'd actually react. But I think, at least, or would like to think, and I know this to some degree of certainty because I've been the first at a scene of an accident a couple of times. And I'm going to exaggerate to get the point across here, but I turn a corner, I see a car crash happen in front of my eyes, one of the cars bursts into flames. Like, my knee jerk there is, you know, smash the window, get the kids out. It's fucking go time. Practically the exact opposite of panic. And what that had me reflecting on was, like, what's the difference between, you know, unexpected event A being a guarded checkpoint and unexpected event B being, you know, car crash? Like, I'm in more present danger of dealing with the immediate after effects of a car crash than I am a random guarded checkpoint. And just thinking out loud, I think there's an element of control. When you rock up to a guarded checkpoint, you're not in control of the situation. You're at the mercy of the guards, I think. And I think that's why I inherently dislike them. Because everything is on their terms. In relation to a guarded checkpoint, at least. You're in their domain. You've essentially walked into a guarded station, even though you're driving along on the road and minding your own fucking business. You may as well have driven to a guarded station and walked into the reception area. Because everything is on their terms. And regardless what your story might be, you know, if they want to do you for whatever they're going to do you, they're going to do you for it, and that's it. You've absolutely no control in that situation. You can't decide not to be there. You can't just go, I don't fancy stopping at a guarded checkpoint and just drive on. You can, but you know, it won't be long before there's a fucking manhunt on for you. But with the car crash, you absolutely can drive on. And that's something that I've seen. I've seen people pass car crashes that they would have seen happen. And just basically, I presume, went, not my fucking problem, and kept going. So I've been 2 or 3 cars behind a collision, watched the 2 or 3 cars in front of me pass the collision that was practically still ongoing. Like, you know, the people involved in the crash haven't gotten out of their cars yet because there hasn't been enough time. They're still sitting there in a state of fucking shock, and people have driven past them. And so I've been the 5th person that could have been on the scene, but I was essentially the first responder. And again, my knee jerk there is fucking go time. And I think that the main difference is control, because you can choose to not stop. Like that guy that fell off the ladder. Like I just drove by him. But I wouldn't have just driven by him if I saw the cunt fall. But I could have. I could have decided not to stop. But with a guarded checkpoint, it's different. So there's an element of agency. So the second that you see a guarded checkpoint is imminent, you essentially have to give up your agency. And I don't fucking like that at all. I don't like any part of that. And I think that's the main driver for why I've always wanted to work for myself. Because when you work for yourself, you have total, complete and utter agency over what you do. Within reason. You can't just decide not to do any work today. If, you know, there are things that absolutely have to be done by you today. You can, I suppose. You can decide not to do them. But you won't have a business for very long. So you are beholden to your business and to your customers to a large degree, but a much less degree than you're beholden to your employer. Like I have a strong independent streak in me. And that's great. Having agency, having an independent streak is fantastic. But as the saying goes, heavy lies the crown. Like you have a lot more responsibility when you have to hold yourself accountable. It's easier in many ways being an employee. 9 to 5. You know, you go in, there's a job description, you've been told what your job is, you go in and you do it, and then when fucking 5 o'clock hits, you fucking down tools and head home, and you don't have to think about it again. And if you've a problem, you go and ask the guy. You know, your computer won't start, so you contact IT. You have a customer that you can't fucking deal with, so you say to your manager. You know, your wages aren't right, so you get on to accounts. The car won't start. You fucking say it to whoever, or you just bring it to the company's garage and you go, you know, well, how are you getting on? I work with this company. You have some sort of agreement whereby you fix the cars, fix me car. You don't have to think a whole pile about it. But when you are running your own show, you're the manager, you're the HR guy, you're the accountant guy, you're the everything guy, basically. If there's no one in relation to my business, there's no one that I can basically ask anything about. Aside from the kind of the day-to-day stuff, because the lads I have working with me know what they're at. So I wonder, is it the lack of agency that is the fundamental alarm trigger for me in relation to the guarded checkpoint? As I mentioned in a previous episode, when I hit the checkpoint, I was inundated with, the tyres, the fucking insurance, the NCT, the tax, the fucking everything, basically. And that's a legacy thing. That's from when I used to drive around, you know, without the tax being up to date, without the NCT being up to date. You know, maybe I'd missed a month of insurance or something, and there was always that kind of, there was a semi-perpetual fear of the guards for that reason, because at any given time there was bound to be one thing that the guards could do me for, whether it was tax or NCT or tyres or fucking something. I'd be on the phone, I wouldn't have my seatbelt on, whatever. And I suppose what that's leading me to ask myself now is, how do I essentially grow out of that? Because on one hand, I have, don't speed, it's always taxed, it's always insured, it's always NCT'd, I always have good tyres on it. You know, I've hit that stage in my life whereby I have all that kind of stuff under control. But there's an integration issue here, because although factually that's all under control, and your one had a quick look at the windscreen and went, yeah, away with you. So I've solved the problem essentially. I've solved the physical problem, but I haven't solved the mental problem. I still have residual hang up about not having things in order. And I am quick, as a general rule, to jump to the negative. I'm quite binary in like that. I usually flip from one to the other relatively fast, but the first one is typically the bad one. So a customer rings me. First initial knee-jerk is, oh fuck, what's wrong? The second initial knee-jerk is, maybe they want to quadruple their order. Or I get a phone call from the wife that I'm not expecting. You know, knee-jerk is, there's been a car crash. Second knee-jerk is, we've won the lotto. And I don't know if that's preferable to meh. Like, which is better? To have two knee-jerks. One is, car crash, the other one is won the lottery. So your choice is you can have two knee-jerks, worst case scenario, best case scenario, or you just get meh. Meh. The best case, worst case scenario thing is interesting as well. It's kind of I suppose it's another proxy for heaven and hell. So, unexpected event happens. Is this going to be hell or is this going to be heaven? But and that's in many ways better than meh. But there's obviously a stress involved in this is going to be the best thing ever or this is going to be the worst thing ever. It's kind of a life of extremes is a stressful life. Now, is that a good or a bad thing? Fuck knows. But it's just interesting though, because when I was reflecting on the panic of the guard at checkpoint, and again, because I was saying it out loud, number one, and the other part that I haven't mentioned recently is the fact that I'm uploading this to the world, it leaves me a lot more accountable. Because in the back of my mind, there's always an element of somebody else listening to this, which makes it keeps me more accountable. I think it keeps me more honest. I think I could bullshit myself a little bit more, or maybe a lot more, or I'd certainly be inclined to maybe bend the truth, consciously or otherwise, if I wasn't uploading this for, like, quite literally anybody in the world to listen to. I'm very much holding myself accountable. So there's a double benefit. Saying it out loud means my fucking ears can hear it, and I'm kind of integrating that part of my body. And there's an accountability aspect regarding the fact that I'm uploading this for literally anybody in the world to listen to, now or in fucking 10 years' time. Now, I have to be careful there that I don't dilute down what I'm saying so much, because I don't want to share too much about myself or other people to the internet, which is a fair concern. But I think I do a reasonably good job. I'm open enough. I'm not that pushed on, loads of people listening to what I have to say about certain things. Because realistically, if you're not inclined or interested in listening to the types of things that I'm talking about, you're not going to. You might listen to the first minute or two and then just go, oh, this absolutely isn't for me. Fucking pass. You're not going to go, oh, I'm not really enjoying this. I'll just listen to the next 50 episodes and see what comes of it. So I can kind of find comfort in the fact that anybody who's still listening to me at 15 minutes has an interest in something that I'm saying, or is getting some sort of value out of it. And again, that's very much secondary to me. I'm doing this first and foremost as a form of self-help nearly. It's like fucking self-therapy. I find it very cathartic. And when I'm having these thoughts out loud, see, you can't do two things at the same time in relation to what you can't think about two things at the same time. So you can definitely do two things at the same time. I'm speaking extemporaneously whilst driving. Okay? So both my feet are active, my right hand and my left hand are active, my eyes are obviously very active. You know, there's an awful lot going on. But you can't simultaneously think about two different things at the same time. I certainly can't. Maybe there are people who can, but I certainly can't. So when I'm exploring the content of my own consciousness, such as I am now, I'm not going on in my head about how much of a dickhead I am. And when I finish this recording, I upload it to the internet, I stick another number to it, so this is 69 out of 100. So this will go up as 69 out of 100, the next one will be 70, and at some point in the future I'll hit the 100 and I'll be able to go, fucking hell. It took me a while, but I fucking uploaded those 100 episodes and learned A, B and C from it, and nobody can take that away from me. It's like running a marathon or running 5k or doing anything. Once it's done, it will always have been done. Like, I'm running my business now 8 years. Let's say it folds for whatever reason. Let's say I go bankrupt. Oh fuck, that'd be desperate. And it would, it'd be fucking terrible. But I could die a 90-year-old man having ran my own business for 8 years. There's no taking that away from me. I'm running my 4th marathon in a couple of weeks, the 7th of October, I think. And when I finish that marathon, regardless what time I finish it in, so long as I finish it, I'll have run 4 marathons. And no amount of bad days thereafter will reduce that number down to 3 or 2 or 1. I'll always, for the rest of my entire life, have ran at least 4 marathons. So there's an undeniable stack of effort that you're left with when you record things and make them kind of permanent, because I could be having these conversations out loud to myself in the van and not uploading them, and there will be a certain amount of self-help involved in that, quite a bit I'd imagine, but not nearly enough as when I upload them, because I'm holding myself so much more accountable. And what compounds that is the stack of things that you're left with. So I upload them all and that's great. I'm holding myself accountable. I'm exploring the contents of my mind and that's great, and all the rest of it. But in a year or 2 or 5 or 10 years time, when I've essentially forgotten everything that I was talking about here, I'll A, have benefited from it in the short, medium and long term, just from having done it. But I'll also benefit in being able to open up my YouTube account and go, fucking hell, I have 200 hours of content up here. Like, it's an undeniable stack of proof that you're not fucking useless. which shouldn't go a long way at all in making you feel fucking better about yourself. You should get that internally. But it fucking helps me anyway to have an undeniable stack of evidence that I'm not a fucking loser, because I absolutely do have a tendency, right or wrong, for jumping to that conclusion from time to time. And on that note, I'll chat to you soon.